Well, again, I want to welcome everyone and thank you for coming. My name is Dr. Jim Wyss. I am chairman or co-chairman of the Rose Project of Jewish Federation of Family Services. And it's our honor to help host this tonight. Tonight's program is the third and final presentation in the Rose Project's distinguished lecture series entitled Democracy and Human Rights in Israel, Views from the Supreme Court. This program is distinct and rare honor of welcoming three different Israeli Supreme Court justices. Back in October, we had Chief Justice Aharon Barak speak to an audience at the UCI School of Law in Irvine, and he spoke on what it means for Israel to be a Jewish and democratic state. In February, we had retired Justice Delia Dorner address a crowd at Temple Bat Yam in Newport Beach about the important issue of how Israel seeks to maintain human rights in the face of terrorism. Tonight, we're honored to have Justice Salim Joubran, and I won't tell you about him because other people will do that. The Rose Project of Jewish Federation of Family Services is delighted to partner with Temple Beth El and this beautiful facility, Hillel Foundation of Orange County, and two academic divisions from the UCI, the School of Social Sciences and the Department of Political Science. A little bit about the Rose Project. In 2008, a small group of Jewish community stakeholders came together under the auspices of JFFS for the purpose of creating a strategy that would create a new reality for Jewish students on the UCI campus. We also focus on the students at Chapman and Fullerton, so it's really the three college campuses in Orange County. There were troubling and trying times, and I want to say by no means is our work done. I think that we have made advances, and tonight is an example of one of the advances that we think that has been a victory for us. Through this collaboration with the university, we are seeing a new reality with an improved climate for Jewish students in Israel, skilled Jewish student leaders who are knowledgeable about Israel, and you'll meet one of them in a few minutes. There have been rich opportunities for Israel education, academic collaboration with Israeli universities, and opportunities for students to engage in bridge building. Students and faculty from Israeli universities come to Orange County and vice versa. Tonight's program and the entire Distinguished Lecture Series is one of many that embody our shared commitment to promoting civility and scholarship about Israel. And as I said, not limited to UCI, but also Chapman and Fullerton, and in fact, the Justice's visit here in Orange County. He will continue to address students and faculty. I understand you have a busy day for tomorrow. And he'll be meeting with people at UCI, Fullerton, and Chapman. So before I introduce Rabbi Levy, a quick housekeeping note. There were cards on the table outside, and these are for you to write down your questions. We will not be taking open questions from the floor. So write down your questions. There will be staff who will accept the questions, accept the cards, and then Rabbi Levy has agreed to moderate the Q&A later. So before we hear from tonight's speaker, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Rabbi Peter Levy, Senior Rabbi here at Temple Beth El.
Thank you, Jim. And as a rabbi, I'll try and keep it brief. One, we're honored to be really partnering with Rose Project and our executive director, Lisa Armoni, to bring this together. When we started talking about this, we knew that this address would be an opportunity for the justice to address not just the Jewish community, but really try and bring together the interfaith community. And Temple Bethel, long before I've been here, under our beloved founding rabbi, Rabbi Alan Krauss, Olav Shalom, was really committed to being part of the greater community, interfaith conversation and dialogue, and really fostering also a wonderful relationship with our local mosque, the Mission Viejo Masjid, of which we have many of our friends here with us this evening. But we also have friends from our churches of all varieties from around Orange County. And together we hosted a more intimate dinner with faith leaders from different religious and ethnic parts of our community here in Orange County to really try and learn a little bit from Israel, which has its own challenges, which is different and yet somehow enlightening for all of us here in Orange County who care about the Holy Land and all our traditions. We're deeply connected to Jerusalem, and to the Holy Land, to our, and the religious words are mutual respect and tolerance, right? I think are the three words that we learned over dinner that we really hope to foster, not just locally, but throughout the world. So this is very much in the spirit of Beth El and our tradition to be able to host this evening. It's my great honor to welcome you all for what I hope will be a wonderful evening. And before I introduce the person who will introduce our speaker, I just want you to know that he told me two jokes over dinner, a Jewish joke and a Christian joke, right? So I know we're in good hands. So with that, I'd like to introduce Allison Klein, a student at University of California, Irvine, who will introduce our guest speaker this evening.
Hello. Sorry. My name is Allison Klein, and I'm a senior at the University of California, Irvine, the campus liaison for the UCI APAC Cadre, and a member of the Hillel community. My work on campus involves providing a space for education and discourse, fostering pro-Israel views among students, and strengthening the U.S.-Israel relationship. Justice Salim Joubran was appointed to the Supreme Court of the State of Israel in 2003 and became a permanent member in May 2004. Among his many accomplishments, he holds the distinction of being the first Israeli Arab to receive a permanent appointment to the High Court and to chair the Israel Central Elections Committee. Born in 1947 in Haifa to a Maronite Christian family, Joubran earned a law degree from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and soon entered private practice. In 1982, he accepted appointment as a judge on Haifa's Magistrates Court. He was named to Haifa's District Court in 1983, where he served until his 2003 Supreme Court appointment. Justice Joubran has taken a lead role in criminal law cases before the court. His decisions convey the importance of universal legal practices, the defense of human rights, and protection of minorities. In addition to his judicial work, Justice Joubran has committed much of his life to fostering coexistence between Jews and Arabs in Israel. He was one of the founders of Beit Kedem, the Arab Jewish Cultural Center, a member of the public management of the nonprofit organization Beit Hagafen, and served on the executive committee of the Jewish Arab Center at the University of Haifa. He received the Lord Marcus Ziv Prize for his initiatives to improve Jewish-Arab relations in Israel. Joubran was a lecturer at the law faculty of the University of Haifa. A member of the Haifa Carmel Rotary Club, he served as governor of Israel Rotary District 2490 and chairman of the Zeltner Fund for Legal Research sponsored by Rotary Israel and Tel Aviv University. Please give a warm welcome to Supreme Court Justice Salim Joubran.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Rabbi Levi for his kind invitation and nice hospitality in this very nice place. I am glad to be here with you, and I am so glad that you are all here. There is a story about former President Ronald Reagan. He was once invited to the prison, Alcatraz prison in San Francisco, not far from here. And after he finished the visit, his advisor asked him to say something to the prisoners. Then he said, what I can tell them, I can release them from the prison. But at the end of the day, he agreed and he said, dear prisoners, I am so glad that you are all here. Of course, I am glad, not from the reasons of President Reagan, but I am glad that you're here, really. I'll try to be short. There's a story about King Henry VIII. He used to say to each of his 1 of 6 wives, don't worry, I'll not keep you long. And also I'll try to be short. Rabbi Levi said that I told him 2 jokes, one a Christian joke and one a Jewish joke, and I'm now going to tell you another Jewish joke, not Christian. It's a story about an ultra-Orthodox Jew who came 100 years ago to Orange County, and there were small places and there were no hotels, and it was night and raining, and he was seeking a place for a shelter to this night, and he wants, of course, a Jewish family. And he was here in Irvine, and he noticed on one of the doors the name Abramovich. Well, he said, just this is a Jewish family. He knocked on the door, and then a Chinese man was there, and they asked him, tell me please, this is the house of Mr. Abramovich? He said, yes. Who is Mr. Abramovich? Myself. Oh, you're Abramovich? How come? And he told him the story that 40 years ago he immigrated from China to America, and he was waiting in the line to the immigration office, and before him was a gentleman. When he reached to the immigration office, he asked him, what is your name? He said, Abramovich. Then he gave him the passport, okay. And then when his turn came, the officer asked him, what is your name? He said, same thing. Then he wrote it Abramovich. Well, of course, I came this evening not only to talk jokes, to tell you about, to talk much more serious things. I'm so privileged to be the 3rd guest hosted by you here after Chief Justice Aaron Barak and former Justice Dalia Dorner. Both of them were still very good friend of mine. Former Chief Justice Barak was the man who recommended me to be elevated from the District Court to the Supreme Court. And I was many years a member in his panels at the Supreme Court. And I was also a member of the panel of former Justice Dorner. And we have here among us a very good friend, young Professor Muhammad Wadad. He used to serve as a law clerk of former Justice Dalia Dorner. And I can say that he was one of the brilliant law clerks in the court, and I'm glad that he is with us this evening. Actually, I will try to give you a brief overview about the Supreme Court and the role of the Supreme Court in a democratic country. Then I will try to give you also a few words about the freedom of religion in Israel from the judicial point of view, and then to tell you a little bit about the daily life of Jews, Christians, and Muslims in the Holy Land, in Israel. The Supreme Court of the State of Israel is a very, very busy court. We deal every year with about 9,000 cases. This is the great country of Israel, while if we compare this with the small country called America, United States of America, where in Washington, D.C., the Supreme Court, they have about between 80 and 90 cases every year. We have it every day. This is the difference between the great Israel and small America. And it's because we do not have a court of appeal between the district court and the Supreme Court. This is one of the reasons. Another reason is that according to our system, every citizen in the country have the right to apply directly to the Supreme Court when, for example, he is claiming violation of human rights by one of the branches of the government while operating in the public arena. In these cases, he may apply directly to the Supreme Court. And we have about 1,500 cases from this kind every year. It is too hard for us as judges. We are only 15 judges at the court. But at the same time, it's good for us to give the feeling to every citizen in the country that somebody is listening to him. And in many cases, we try to find a compromise between the state and this petitioner in order to solve the specific problem brought before us as a court. As you may know, we do not have in Israel written constitution until now. And instead of that, we have about 15 laws which was enacted by the parliament, and they were described as basic laws, which are much more stronger than regular laws, and they are a semi-constitution. And we need that the parliament, the Knesset, will enact other important laws, such like human rights basic laws and social rights basic laws. Once those laws would be enacted by the parliament, this will be the written constitution of the country. In 1992, the parliament, the Knesset, enacted a law, a very important basic law, Human Dignity and Liberty Law, and it was described by former Chief Justice Aaron Barak as a constitutional revolution in Israel, because it was a very important law protecting human rights, human dignity and liberty. And in a landmark decision in 1995, given by an expanded panel of 9 judges of the Supreme Court decided that in spite of the fact that it is not written in any law of the country, the Supreme Court has the right to exercise judicial review over the acts of the parliament and the decisions of the government. It was a historical decision. Of course, it was not accepted so well by the members of the parliament, but at the same time, the Supreme Court said that due to the fact that there is no written constitution in Israel, the role of the Supreme Court is a very important and very vital role in order to protect democracy and human rights. The fact that some of the human rights are not written in the Israeli laws doesn't say that those rights are not protected. They are protected by the Supreme Court. Of course, we prefer that they will be protected in the future by the Constitution. But until we will have this written Constitution, all the human rights in Israel are protected by the Supreme Court. The way of appointing judges in Israel is a very unique one. Judges in Israel are not elected and not appointed by the parliament. They are selected by a committee of 9 members. The head of this committee is the Minister of Justice, and among its members, another minister from the cabinet, 2 members of the Israeli Association Bar, 2 members of the Knesset, and 3 judges of the Supreme Court, including the President of the Supreme Court. This is the committee which recommends to the President of the state to appoint judges in all levels, from the Magistrates Court to the Supreme Court. And you may notice that the majority of the members of this committee are not politicians. 3 judges and 2 members of the bar. And it is good for the public interest that judges will not be appointed only by politicians. And I think it's a good way to select judges. Next year, there will be a very important event in our court, because 4 of the 15 judges are going to be retiring next year, and it will be very interesting to know that we will have next year 4 new Supreme Court judges in the Supreme Court of Jerusalem, and we are waiting for this because I'm waiting for this because I want to retire next year and to make other things, because we work very hard. I don't have much time to my family and to my hobbies, and I hope that after retiring I will be able to do other things. That's not to say that I'm not pleased, I'm not happy to be, I'm happy and I'm proud to be on the bench, but I will be 35 years on the bench, and it's enough, I think, in order to retire and do other things. Let me talk about freedom of religion. In Israel, there is freedom of religion and freedom from religion. Every religious recognized community has the right to manage the internal affairs of the community without intervene of the government. They are fully independent. We have many religious communities in Israel due to the fact that this is the Holy Land. We have the Jewish community, we have the Muslim community, and we have about 15 recognized Christian religious communities. We have the Roman Catholic, the Greek Catholic, Greek Orthodox, Maronites, Copts, Armenians, Caledonians, Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran, and etc., etc. This is the Holy Land, And every religious community has the right to have its own religious tribunals dealing with personal status cases like marriage and divorce. And all those matters are settled by the religious laws. And they are not part of the family courts in the secular courts. Every community has the right to have its own first degree and appellate degree dealing with those cases. And as I have mentioned before, they have the right to give the rulings according to the specific law of each community. But at the same time, there is authority and power of the Supreme Court to intervene sometimes in their rulings. For example, when they exceeded their authority or they gave their ruling without authority, or the ruling is given against the principle of natural justice. In these cases, there is authority of the Supreme Court to intervene in the rulings of the religious tribunals. The Supreme Court, as I have mentioned, has the right to have judicial overview over the rulings and the acts of the parliament, but we use this authority very carefully because we respect the principle of separation of powers, but at the same time, once the Supreme Court came to a conclusion that a law which were enacted by the parliament conflicts with one of the principles of the basic laws, it is the duty of the Supreme Court to declare this law as void or as unconstitutional. And you may ask how you can declare a law as unconstitutional once you don't have a constitution. Then it's a matter of fact that we believe that those basic laws are the beginning of the written constitution, and for this reason we can declare a law as unconstitutional. And before using this authority, and in order to respect the parliament, and we really respect the parliament, the members of the parliament, we in modern time postpone the hearings of this petition and send back this act to the parliament to reconsider it. And we postpone the hearings for sometimes 6 months or more in order to give the parliament a chance to reconsider it. And in case it will not happen, then it is our duty to do that. And it was only during the last 25 years, only in 16 or 17 cases that the Supreme Court decided to intervene and to decide that a law is void or unconstitutional. And I said that we use this power very carefully, and it's a great issue in the country, the relation between the court and the government. At the same time, we as a court enjoy a high percentage of confidence by the public. And it's very important for us, this confidence, because we derive our strength from the confidence of the public. And if we get this confidence, we feel better to continue to serve the Israeli citizens, the majority and the minority, and to make justice to all parts of the Israeli society. You can ask how you can manage all these huge number of cases. We are only 15 judges, and we have 9,000 cases every year. Well, actually, about 40% of the cases, we settle on the courtroom in the oral hearings. We try to bring the parties to a compromise. In the other cases, we will take home and write decisions at home in the weekend, including Shabbat. Myself only, of course. My colleagues, the Jewish colleagues, will not write on Shabbat, but I have the privilege to write rulings in Shabbat and in the weekend. And our rulings sometimes are long. It's not only 4 or 5 pages. Sometimes it's 70 pages, 100, sometimes 200 pages. And believe me, it's not an easy job. Justices of the Supreme Court in Israel sit on the bench 4 days every week, while in other countries, some of the justices sit once a month or twice a month, but we sit every day, 4 days, and we settle about 16, 17 cases every day, each panel. Then if we are 4 panels sitting on the bench on one day, and every panel deals with about 16, 17 cases, this is the number of cases that the court in Washington, D.C. deals in 1 year. And we are not complaining, but this is a matter of fact, you know that. Well, to talk about the interfaith relations between the religions in Israel is a very good job for me to do that, because I believe that once we are living in the same place, in the same country, Jews, Muslims, and Christians, the better way to live, and not only to live, but to enjoy living together, is to do that in a peaceful way and peaceful coexistence. And as I have told before, Rabbi Levi, the magic formula, and I can give you the example of my city, Haifa. I live in Haifa. Haifa is a beautiful city in the north part of the country. I believe some of you were there, lived there, or were tourists there. And the population of Haifa is a very unique one. There are about 300,000 population, 10% of them, 20,000 Christian, 10,000 Muslims. And we are doing well, and we can be a good example, not only in Israel, but in the world, how we manage this coexistence in the daily life. And the magic formula that I told Rabbi Levi is using only 3 words. We don't need more than 3 words. The mutual respect and tolerance. Once those words are implemented on the ground, the situation will be much more better, not only in Haifa, but in the world. And Haifa is very well known in Israel as a better place to live, Jews, Christians, and Muslims. We have many synagogues for the Jewish community. We have about 15 churches to the several churches in several Christian communities in the city. And we have about 7 mosques to the Muslim community. And we celebrate all the holidays together during the month of December. During this month, there is a great celebration in Haifa called the Holiday of the Holidays, the month of the holidays, when we celebrate Christmas for the Christian communities, Hanukkah for the Jewish community, and the birthday of Prophet Muhammad for the Muslim community. And we make cultural activities, meeting together, discussing things together in order to know much about the other in a very peaceful way. And I forgot to tell you that in Haifa also we have a very nice community of the Baha'i faith. The Baha'i faith, the headquarters of the Baha'i faith is located in Haifa. And the general secretary of the Baha'i faith is an American citizen. He living in Haifa now. He is a very good friend of mine. His name is Joshua Lincoln. His father used to be the former general secretary of this faith. The Baha'is are very nice people. They respect all the other religions, and they believe that God loves gardens. And for this reason, they established a very nice garden in Haifa, which is one of the beautiful gardens in the country, from the Carmel Heights, from the hill up to the sea. If you have been there, I hope that you enjoyed those gardens. And they have very good relations with the other religions in Haifa and in the whole country. There is another in Haifa, a very small group of Muslims called Ahmadim. They are part of the Muslim religion, but they have their own way how to believe in Prophet Muhammad and God. Also, they respect all the other religions, and they every year arrange a conference, a peace conference, and inviting all the leaders of all the communities in Israel to meet together, to have a dialogue, and to try to build good relations between all the religions in the country. Although they are a very small community in Haifa, but they're very active and they have respect of all other religions in Haifa. In order to bring the matter of tolerance to reality, I can give you some examples how we can manage this living together in Haifa between Jews, Christians, and Muslims. I live in a building where there are 6 Christian families, 3 Muslim families, and 3 Jewish families. And during the holidays, we invite our friends. In Christmas, we invite our friends, the Muslims and Jews, to come to see the Christmas tree and to eat the tasty Toblerone chocolates and to get Papa Noel gifts. You know, it's very good. Then in Pesach, we are invited to our friends, the Jews, for Leila Seder, and we read Agadah Shel Pesach. And at the birthday of Prophet Muhammad, we are invited to our friends, the Muslims, in order to celebrate this holiday with them. This is a good idea to me. Then while you're meeting together, you may ask questions about the other religion, and they ask you about your religion. And this is the way how to manage this living together with all the communities in the city. I used to live in a city called Acre. It's a very historical city. It has a history of 4,000 years. And my neighbors, they were newcomers from Morocco. And I remember when I was a child that my parents at the end of Pesach, they used to bring them the pita bread and the yogurt every year. And until now, we are very close friends with their children and grandchildren. In Akko, there is a very important Muslim mosque called Al-Jazzar Mosque. It was built by a Turkish ruler 200 years ago. It's a very beautiful mosque. And every year, during the month of Ramadan, the Imam of the mosque organizes a iftar Ramadan, we call it, at the end of the day after, and he invites hundreds of people from all the religions, Christians and Jews. And I attended many times this celebration. And the chief rabbi of the city of Acre attended this celebration and gave he said good things about this celebration and about the relation between the Jews and the Muslims. At the same time, the priest of the Christian community in Akko was attending, and also he said very good things about the relations between all those religions together. This is a good way how to manage living together all those religions. We have a very special committee in Jerusalem, the Interfaith Religious Committee, which has members from all the religious communities in the country, Jews, Muslims and Christians, and they're very active in bringing all those leaders to meet together and discuss things in order to know much more about the other. I can give you another example. In one of our Rotary clubs in Acre, I used to be 24 years ago the district governor of Rotary International in Israel. And in our club in Acre, there were members of the club, the Qadi of the Muslim community, who is the judge of the religious tribunal. At the same time, he is the leader of the Muslim community. He was the president of the club when I joined Rotary. He was the president who gave me the chance to be a member of Rotary Club. And he was a Muslim religious leader. He was the president of the club. At the same time, there was the chief rabbi of the city, a member in this club, and one of the priests of the Roman Catholic Church in Akko also was a member in this club. And when we used to celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah together, we invited the friends from the city, the mayor and the VIP persons to the celebration. And when you see those three leaders sitting on the same table, the chief rabbi, the priest, and the Qadi, and the Qadi gives a few words about the Islam, and the priest about the Christianity, and we celebrate the Hanukkah with the candles. This gives a good example to the whole population of the city that we can do it. If the leaders of the city get sitting together and telling us only good things about the religions, then it is a good way that we, as the citizens of the city, should make the same things, meet together, and try to create a good atmosphere for better coexistence between Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Well, I intended to, according to my schedule, I intended to talk about 3 hours, but I think I will not give you the chance to hear me 3 hours. I hope that, I think that I gave you a little bit about what's going on in Israel as one who lives in this place and one who is very active in bringing the good relations between Jews, Muslims, and Christians. I hope that you will be a goodwill ambassador of all those religions in Israel, all over the world, and pray with us for peace, because we want peace, all of us, because we believe that once we will have peace, you will have prosperity, security, and stability. Thank you so much.
So we also have ample opportunity for some questions. So if you need a card, just please raise your hand. We'll have more cards passed out. If you have cards with questions, we have some folks who are going to come around and collect those cards. And while that's happening, as you take a few moments to write, just one question I had. You mentioned that Israel, one of the foundational principles was that there's freedom of religion and there's also freedom from religion, right? That you can opt out. And then at the same time you said, for example, all the different religious authorities have control over marriage and divorce. But what we know in the case when people opt out of religion, right, there is no civil or secular marriage in Israel. So can you comment about that legal status?
Well, we don't have a civil marriage in Israel, but couples may go, for example, to Cyprus and get married in a civil marriage, and they are recognized by the Ministry of Interior as a couple. No problem with that. But in Israel, we don't have civil marriage because of religious reason, and it's a very sensitive issue. But civil marriage is can be get in outside Israel.
Great. I'm just going to grab some cards here. So it's a... So there's one question about the broad power of the Supreme Court. Does it have the power to enforce its rulings, or does it depend upon other institutions in Israel? What's the power, the real power that the Supreme Court has?
The only power that is in the Supreme Court hands is the pencil and the paper. This is the only power, but it's a great power and a strong power. And as a matter of fact, all the rulings of the Supreme Court are respected by the Parliament and by the government. They will not need to use any power in order to implement our rulings. They are respected by the Parliament and by the government.
All right, a number of questions here. We have a number of questions related to the idea of religious pluralism, particularly right now within the Jewish community, about whether or not conservative Judaism, if there's free to observe, or Masorti, as it's called in Israel. Do you see different tolerance for different types of Judaisms within Israel? Do the other strains, non-Orthodox strains, actually have religious freedom? And then someone asked a very particular question about a certain city, Amer, in Rehovot, where they were Orthodox, but then despite the laws, didn't respect other strands of Judaism. So how do you understand, what does it mean to say there's religious freedom in Israel within the Jewish community? In America, we have these denominations, and how that plays out in Israel, and how that, when that's not respected, how that plays out legally.
Well, actually, it's an easy question. It's very easy. Like the question, who is a Jew, for example. If you believe that one of you can give me the answer, who is a Jew, I will be happy, but it's not so easy. It's a very difficult question, a very complicated question, and it's much more complicated as non-Jew to refer to this question. Because there is a saying say that where are two Jews, there are five opinions. And I can't give you this answer because some of these issues are still pending before our court. Then if you will invite me after the 4th of August 2017, which is the day of my retirement, I will be glad to answer these questions.
So mark your calendars. What's it like being an Arab-Israeli citizen?
It's a good question. I believe it is a very special status. we are residents of the states, we are citizens of the state, and we are trying to be involved in all the institutions of the state. And unfortunately, the Arab minority doesn't have full equality. It's a matter of the policy of the government. But in the last few years, we noticed there is a good progress from the government toward the Arab minority by giving budgeting, by appointing Arab academics in the high ranks in the government. It's a good step. It's not enough, but we hope that it will be increasing every day. Just 2 months ago, the government decided to give a budget of 15 billion shekels to improve the situation of the Arab citizens in the country. It's a good step by the government. It was accepted very well by all the parts of the Arab minority. We hope that it will be continuing, and this gives the feeling to the Arab minority to be a part of what's going in the state, in the high ranks. I think this is a right step. It's not enough. We need much more. I hope that the government will take care more for the Arab minority in the future.
Great. So it sounds like, and responding to the questions here, that under the law, everyone's a full citizen, but in the way the government, or the current government, implements that, everyone in minority groups don't have privileges of full citizenship, and not as a matter of law, as a matter of
It's a matter of the policy of the government, but at the same time, the role of Supreme Court in this issue is very important, because we have had, in many years ago until now, petitions applied by Arab citizens demanding equality in many fields of life, and those were petitions against the state, and in many cases, the ruling was in favor of the petitioners, ordering the government to maintain equality to the minority in this field and this field. Once the matter comes to the court should maintain equality to the minority and to other minority groups in the country, not to the Arab minority. But then we are as judges, it's our task to maintain equality. It is a very important human right, although, as I've mentioned before, it's not written in any law, but the Supreme Court decided to interpret the human dignity as includes the equality. The equality is part of human dignity of everyone. Then the court has the right to protect the human dignity and the equality for all the people of the state of Israel.
So, just to follow that up, so then we talked about human rights, and you called it the basic rights under the basic law. How is that applied differently for Christians, Muslims, and Jews?
The same, there is no difference between the attitude of the court while dealing with cases where Christians, Muslims, and Jews are involved. The same way we treat all those cases in the same way without any difference.
So, in a slightly different direction, how does the Supreme Court deal with controversial issues like building settlements? Does that come in front of the court?
I will ask you to add this question to the other question to after 4th of August 1917.
So without comment,
this will be question number 2.
So without comment, just in broadly, do those issues come to the Supreme Court without discussing them in particular?
Yes, there are many issues brought to the Supreme Court, but as you may know, I am a judge. I am not allowed to talk on political issues, and especially issues that are still pending before the court. It's not good for a judge to refer to issues, because maybe I will be one of the members of the panels which will deal with this and that issue, and then I should give my opinion not to the public, but in my opinion, writing opinion, and everyone may read it after 5 minutes after I am signing it in the internet, because all our rulings in Israel are in the internet 5 minutes after the judge signed the ruling. This is a good thing to know. You can see it everywhere in the world.
So you made a reference earlier that there isn't a written constitution, but there's this anticipation that one is coming, so we're sort of thinking about that and actually ruling with that without having it in hand.
Yes, you are right.
Are there actually any current plans to write the constitution for Israel? And then connected with that is, what's the process to amend or add or evolve the basic laws that govern right now?
Actually, to amend the basic law, you need a special majority, not like a regular. You can amend a regular law with a majority of 2 against 1. But to amend the basic law, you need much more a majority. This is the difference between the 2 laws, and for this reason, it's much more stronger. About the constitution, I'm not optimistic that in the near future there will be a written constitution in the state of Israel due to historical reasons, and especially once you will have a constitution, you should define the state of Israel. Which kind of state? Is it a Jewish state? Is it according to the Jewish halakha or the secular law? And this is a great issue between the Jewish people and the members of parliament in the 1950s or last century decided not to deal with this. It's very sensitive, yeah? And they decided to let the status quo as it is, hoping that in the future there will be a compromise or a way between the ultra-Orthodox and the secular part of the Jewish people how to define the state of Israel. This is, I think, the main reason why we do not have written constitution. I hope that, I'm sure that until I'm going to be retired, this will not happen. I hope that maybe, inshallah, in the future it will happen.
Now, we do have a good number of questions. Just I want to apologize. If you don't hear your questions, based on our experiences over the past few days, you know there's a lot of questions as we've already heard up here that the justice can't answer because they're of a political realm. So
this will be question number 3.
Question number 3. So, well, here's a question. You gave us a great description of the way the Supreme Court is appointed in Israel, which is very different than the American system, in an effort to not politicize it. Right? Also, we've observed in America that our own system hadn't been politicized until more recently, and it's become much more politicized. So one of the questions is, in Israel, right, which is also experiencing over the past 10 years extreme partisanship the way America has, the way it hadn't in a generation, despite the process that's in place now for appointing Supreme Court justices, is there any efforts, or is it politicized at all? Or are there efforts to view it as politicized?
It's a political question.
I will put that in this pile.
I should be careful because I think this is the right way for me to behave as a current acting judge of the Supreme Court, and I prefer not to answer these questions. Yeah.
So, question. A little bit about Haifa, where you're from, and you gave us wonderful examples. Have there been ever periods of conflict in Haifa due to the diversity of religions, or has it always been harmonious?
I can say never. Never. It happened in other places in Israel, but in Haifa, never happened.
So
this is the beauty of Haifa, and this is something very special in Haifa.
So one of the questions is it something really unique to Haifa and its history?
Yes, it is unique. It's unique to Haifa. It began during the mandate period before 1948. The British mandate decided that in every place there should be equality between all the religions. For example, at the district court of Haifa, the presiding judge was British, of course, and on his left, a Muslim judge, when the case is with a Muslim defendant, and a Jewish judge on the other hand, where the defendant is Jewish and the Christian. And this is the way that we grew up, that equality should be for all the religions in Haifa. And it used to be the mayor of Haifa before 1948 was a Muslim mayor, and the vice mayor was a Jew. And then, this makes good for peaceful coexistence in order to serve the citizens of Haifa.
So following up with that, the question is it replicable in other parts of Israel, or is Haifa really unique and standing
It is
alone?
unique in Haifa. There are
But
other
how
places.
can it be replicated and brought to other parts? Because it's not like you're more than 2 hours away from Tel Aviv.
Yeah, yeah. What we are doing in Haifa, the municipality and the Arab Jewish Cultural Center, once a year during a month, make the celebration of the holiday of the holidays, as I tell you, and those who comes to this celebration not only from Haifa, from all Israel, Jews and Arabs, from the Arab villages in the Triangle area and in the Galilee area, and they are coming from Tel Aviv and from Netanya, in order to show them that they also can do it. They can take this example, because once they coming to Haifa, they go to the old town and to buy, to eat the good falafel and good hummus, because the Jews like very much to come to the Arab cities to eat hummus and falafel. Ashkenazis and Sfaradim, you know, and Polish also. They like this much more than the grandmother at home. And once they are coming, they meet people there, and the Arab and Jews families host those who are coming from outside Haifa and to their homes and to discuss things together. This is a good opportunity to show other Jews, Muslim Christians from outside Haifa how we manage it, and then they implement it on the ground in their cities and their villages.
Or American style will just make a reality TV show called Housewives of Haifa.
Yeah.
It might work. A big question here.
Don't ask difficult questions. You know.
All right. Not difficult, but big.
Yeah.
Right? The American community often wants to support Israel. Certainly within the Jewish community and well beyond the Jewish community, there are many people who are supporters of Israel. So one of the questions is, what can we do to strengthen our ties to Israel, to help support Israel, to help Israel move closer to, having a, as you said, a mutual respect and tolerance, right? A peaceful resolution in the Middle East, particularly in Israel. Right? As Americans, we have lots of opinions. From one end of just support Israel, whatever they say, don't ever exercise any opinions, to there are friends and you don't let your friends do stupid things, we should push them, to trying to pressure them through boycotts and sanctions. Right? So the American spectrum is all over the place about how we can have the right relationship with Israel. So the question for you is, from your perspective, as an Israeli, as an Arab, as a Supreme Court justice, as addressing a North American interfaith audience here that deeply cares about Holy Land, about the modern state of Israel, how can we be better friends to Israel? How can we support Israel and strengthen our ties that helps Israel make the movement forward, as you described, for mutual tolerance, mutual respect and tolerance?
First of all, it is ultra-political question. And I can respond in my way at what I expect, not as a judge, but a citizen in the Holy Land. I expect from the United States administration to bring both parties to one table, to close the doors, like what is happening in the Cappella Sistina in the Vatican when they want to elect a pope. The cardinals are not allowed to leave this room until the white smoke will be upside. Then I hope that this will happening to bring us together and to find a solution, because I'm sure that, as I've mentioned before, once this will be achieved, we will enjoy prosperity, security, and only good things to Israel and the Arab countries, to the Palestinians, and to the whole world. Thank you so much.
Well, we want to thank you for being here and sharing your insights, your thoughts with us. I know in America we use a lot of metaphors, and one that we really like is the metaphor of a symphony, and that Israel or Orange County or American culture is like a symphony, and you have your woodwinds and your brass and your percussion and the strings, and I'm probably missing a few because I'm not very musically educated, but we know that while each can be beautiful on its own, and everyone should really excel at what they do, but when they come together, something all the more beautiful happens. And that happens with our religious traditions, that happens with our cultural and our ethnic traditions, that we can really come together in a symphony, which is much greater than just a tolerance. It's really, it's a mutual respect and a harmony coming together. So certainly here and in your home and where our hearts also lie, a prayer
Thank
for
you.
us all.
I forgot to tell you that I brought with me my kippah. This kippah was given to me 4 years ago while I was guest of the Jewish community in Sao Paulo in Brazil. And I addressed the audience in the Beth El also, and it's written Beth El here. And I, to be on the safe side, maybe you will not give me this kippah here, I brought it with me. And I remember 4 years ago also, I have another kippah, a blue kippah. I was given this kippah in Bet Knesset in Lausanne in Switzerland. I was the keynote speaker of the annual conference of the IAJLJ, if you know about that, the international Jewish jurist lawyers in the world. And they organized this conference in Lausanne in Switzerland, and I was the keynote speaker, and it was in Bet Knesset, and I get also my kippah. I have many kinds of kippahs to remember after retiring. Thank you much.
I'd like to invite up Gene Spurtis, the chair of the Museum of Divine Hillel, for some closing remarks.
I'd like to thank you and your lovely wife for coming and spending time not only here, but on the campuses of all three schools and many other places. It's really a pleasure. And as I said to you this evening, you will be back the day after your retirement. Have you come back to Orange County, and you'll have a chance to say some more. For those of you in the audience, I'd like to, first of all, thank Lisa Armoni, who is the executive director of not only the Hillel, but of the Rose Project together. We're really putting this on. It takes a tremendous amount of work to have 3 Chief Justices come to Orange County, and it's something that has been great not only for the community at large, but for our students. And just from another perspective, I'd like you to understand that Hillel is alive and well on 3 of the campuses in Orange County, both at Fullerton, Chapman, and UCI. And we have great students doing great work, not only for the campus, but for the Jewish community and for Israel at large. I would just give you a small taste of that. For those of you that may not know this, at Chapman, for Parents' Weekend, we have 250 people for kosher Shabbat dinner. We have students coming, 50 to 80 students every week at Chapman coming for kosher Shabbat dinners. And we're continuing to grow, and we look forward to being part of the community for many, many years to come. So again, thank you very much for being here this evening, and we will be doing these kinds of events in the years to come.